Picture a vast, untouched landscape stretching beyond the horizon. No cities, no highways, no fences, just open land waiting to be claimed. This image has haunted human imagination for centuries. It fueled empires, justified conquests, and inspired generations to believe that progress begins where nature ends. But what if this idea was flawed from the very beginning? What if the lands we called empty were already alive, balanced, and sustaining systems we barely understood? This is where the green paradox begins, a contradiction at the heart of human progress, where development promises prosperity but delivers long-term environmental damage. Throughout history, frontier expansion has been framed as destiny, opportunity, and survival. From the American West to colonial territories across the globe, expansion was sold as necessary growth. Yet beneath the heroic narratives lies a quieter truth. Every frontier came with a cost that was deliberately ignored. Forests fell, rivers were redirected, species vanished. And the damage did not end when the frontier closed. It compounded over time, silently shaping the world we live in today. When early settlers moved westward, they believed nature was infinite. Resources were seen not as systems to be preserved, but as obstacles to be conquered. This mindset didn't disappear with the end of the Wild West. It evolved. Today, satellites replace wagons, corporations replace prospectors, and the frontier is no longer a continent, it is the planet itself. The same logic applies. Extract now, worry later. So ask yourself this question. If progress always leaves destruction behind, is it truly progress? Or are we simply repeating a cycle we refuse to learn from? In this documentary, Western Tales Official explores how the environmental consequences of frontier expansion never vanished. They only changed location. To understand our current crisis, we must return to where it all began. Before we go further, if you value deep, story-driven documentaries that uncover the hidden truths behind history and modern society, subscribe to Western Tales Official. This channel exists to explore the past not as nostalgia, but as a warning. The American frontier was not just a geographic expansion. It was an ecological turning point. As settlers moved west, they brought farming practices designed for Europe into fragile ecosystems that could not sustain them. Grasslands that had evolved over thousands of years were plowed under in a matter of decades. Forests were stripped for timber, railroads, and fuel. Rivers were dammed and diverted to serve agriculture and mining, disrupting entire watersheds. One of the most devastating consequences was the near extinction of the American bison. Once numbering in the tens of millions, bison were slaughtered at an industrial scale. Their removal shattered the plains ecosystem, contributing to soil erosion and destabilizing indigenous food systems that had existed sustainably for centuries. This was not accidental, it was policy. The destruction of nature was a tool of expansion. Then came the Dust Bowl. Driven by aggressive farming, monocropping, and the belief that land could be endlessly exploited, the Great Plains turned into a wasteland. When drought arrived, the soil had nothing to hold it together. Entire communities were buried in dust, crops failed, and families were forced to migrate. It was one of the first moments in modern history when environmental debt came due, and the bill was catastrophic. What makes this period so important is not just the damage, but the mindset behind it. Expansion was justified by economic growth and national destiny. Environmental consequences were invisible because they were delayed. The land provided immediate profit, while the costs were passed to future generations. This is the foundation of the green paradox. Progress that borrows from tomorrow without permission. And this way of thinking did not end with the frontier. It was exported, refined, and scaled globally. Today's frontiers look different, but the pattern is unmistakably familiar. The Amazon rainforest is cleared at alarming rates, not for survival, but for global supply chains, beef, soy, timber, and minerals. What was once called untouched wilderness is now labeled underutilized land. The language has changed, but the justification remains the same. In the Arctic, melting ice has revealed new shipping routes and oil reserves. Climate change, itself a result of past environmental exploitation, has opened a new frontier for extraction. It is a cruel irony. The damage caused by centuries of expansion is now enabling further destruction. Deep-sea mining threatens ecosystems we barely understand, all in pursuit of minerals essential for modern technology, including renewable energy infrastructure. These are not isolated events. They are repetitions. Just as settlers once believed forests would regrow and soil would recover, modern development assumes technology will fix whatever damage is done. Yet history tells us otherwise. Ecological systems recover slowly, if at all. And when they collapse, the consequences ripple outward, affecting weather patterns, food security, and human migration. The global frontier proves that the green paradox is not a relic of the past. It is an operating system. And as long as growth is prioritized over balance, the cycle continues. Environmental debt does not disappear. It accumulates. The carbon released by deforestation centuries ago still influences atmospheric conditions today. Soil degradation reduces food production. Water scarcity fuels conflict. Biodiversity loss weakens ecosystems, making them more vulnerable to collapse. Extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and mass displacement are not random disasters. They are symptoms of a long-standing imbalance. The environmental costs of frontier expansion were deferred, not eliminated. We are now living in the interest phase of that debt. This inheritance is deeply unequal. Communities that benefited least from historical expansion often suffer the most from its consequences. Indigenous populations, small farmers, and developing nations bear a disproportionate burden. The green paradox is not only environmental, it is social and moral. Understanding this debt is essential because it reframes the climate crisis. This is not a sudden emergency. It is a delayed reaction. Breaking the green paradox does not mean rejecting progress. It means redefining it. Sustainable development, regenerative agriculture, and indigenous land stewardship offer alternatives grounded in balance rather than domination. These systems recognize that nature is not an obstacle, but a partner. Policy matters. Environmental regulations, carbon pricing, and international cooperation can slow the cycle, but only if societies acknowledge the true cost of growth. Technology alone is not enough. Without a shift in values, innovation simply accelerates extraction. The first step toward a sustainable future is honesty, recognizing that our past choices created the present crisis. The second step is responsibility, deciding that progress must no longer come at the planet's expense. If history teaches us anything, it is this: frontiers are not infinite, and neither is the Earth. If this documentary challenged the way you see progress, subscribe to Western Tales Official, because understanding the past is the only way to escape repeating it.